Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today, I want to discuss the recap of the Showtime pay-per-view card, or ESPN pay-per-view card, that had Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder in their third fight in the main event. We're going to go into the undercard first. You had Jared, the real big baby Anderson, undefeated. Prospect on the rise at the heavyweight division. Remember, this was an all heavyweight card, so a lot of people had, a lot to look forward to. And, it didn't disappoint. But starting with Anderson against Teneshkin, I think his name was, Vladimir Teneshkin, kind of the most experienced fighter he ever had. And Teneshkin, he just blew out Teneshkin in 2 rounds. So the real baby, Jared Anderson, is on the rise. This is a good, pretty solid fighter right here. American fighter. And, I'm looking forward to seeing him fight every time out. He's a good, solid fighter. And he went in there and blitzed Teneshkin without problem. And that was impressive. So congrats to him. Should be good to see his next time out. He fights for Bob Arum and Top Rank. So pay attention for him. Next, you had the rematch between Robert Helenius and Adam Konaki. And pretty much Helenius picked up where he left off. He absolutely Konaki his style, the guy is just one-dimensional. He just is going to come right at you. He doesn't really, he landed a little better in this fight, even though he got outworked. But when you're fighting a tall guy, your way in is to jab your way in to get to the body first and then go after the head once you're on the inside. But, Konaki it's like he didn't even watch the first fight at all and pick up from his mistakes. It's like he absolutely thought it was just because he overlooked Helenius. And Helenius is a quality fighter. I've been saying this, he's a quality heavyweight. And Helenius at 6'7" just picked apart Adam Konaki again. Just totally was beating him up, beating him down, hurting him. Konaki landed a few more punches. He went a little further than he did the first time. And then eventually, because of low blows, he got disqualified. So, he didn't get to where, he couldn't continue and he got really hurt. But he broke his orbital bone. I know that. His manager has come out and said that. And, Helenius proved that he's, a solid, very solid heavyweight still, and very durable heavyweight. And this puts him in line. He was talking about, they said this was some kind of a WBA eliminator, and he was talking about possibly fighting Alexander Usyk at some point. I mean, worst case, if they approve the, what I think could happen, if the WBA approves of Usyk to fight Anthony Joshua in a mandatory rematch for the super title, they could make Trevor Bryan defend the regular belt against Helenius while he waits around for a showdown with the winner of Usyk and Joshua in the rematch. So I think that could happen, but congrats to Robert Helenius. He's still banging around. Left no doubt that he was a better man between him and Adam Konaki, and now he can move forward and hopefully get a bigger fight. So congrats to him on his, I think it was 7th or 8th round disqualification win over Adam Konaki in the rematch. And we were really on our way to a knockout win. He was on his way to another knockout win, but either way, he was dominating that fight, and congrats to him. Looking forward to seeing him when he comes back. Then in a co-feature, it was a battle of undefeated, a little bit more than prospects at this point. You had Frank Sanchez who was undefeated. I think he was 18-0 with 15 knockouts or something on that level, taking on F.A. Agba, who was 15-0 at 12 knockouts. And, Frank Sanchez, I picked Agba to win because of his size. He had that wingspan advantage and everything. But the guy proved he's just a headhunter. He's an Olympian, but he's just a headhunter. He was looking just for one big shot, and Frank Sanchez decided to just box. And, some of the fans were booing the fight, but it was a pretty solid fight. But, when it comes to heavyweights, I think the fans were booing because they want to see knockouts. They want to see drama. And, here's the thing about Frank Sanchez. I think he's from Puerto Rico or or Cuba, one of those two. Those schools out in those countries are about boxing first. I mean, pure boxing. And that's what Sanchez did. He outboxed. He hurt Agba a couple times. Agba landed some good shots, but it was just few and far between. And Frank Sanchez got a clean 10-round decision and really pushes himself forward now towards something bigger. It's good to see prospects go at it like this, undefeated prospects on the rise go at it, to see who's taking the next step towards something bigger. And it was nice to see them throw their balls on the table and go at each other. They mentioned during the telecast that you don't see guys do this a lot. Two prospects that are on the rise go against each other because they're trying to build their resume and work themselves into big fights. But these two guys wanted to prove who the next big prospect was, and Sanchez got a nice win. So given his style and his size, I'm not sure how good, how effective Sanchez is going to be, but this was a step in the right direction, moving towards like the top 15 area, and it was a nice win, and good solid performance by Frank Sanchez. Congrats to him. But the main event, you had the third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder for the WBC heavyweight title, and it did not fucking disappoint, not one bit. So it started off with Wilder was throwing jabs to the body. It looked like he was going to be a little bit more active in this fight. He was throwing jabs to the body. He seemed to control the tempo of the first round, and Fury landed a nice 1-2 towards the end of the round. But I really thought that that Wilder controlled the round, and I gave him the first round, no doubt. But the second round, Fury picked up off of that 1-2 he landed at the end of the first and really took over in the second round. He started landing good, hard shots and just really seemed to outwork Deontay. And it looked almost like we were picking up where we left off in the second fight. And the third round looked more of the same, and then he puts Deontay down with a hard right hand. And it really was like, okay, it looked like Deontay was going to go. He really did. And then heading into the fourth round, looked like Deontay was going to go. And then Tyson Fury made a cardinal. It is one thing he can do at times, is he leaves his head straight. And he did that when he got knocked down against Steve Cunningham years ago, who was a smaller heavyweight. He backed out. Cunningham threw a big overhand right and knocked him down hard, because he backed straight out. Well, this one, he was coming in, trying to press on, and he came in leading with his head, and Deontay landed a short right hand and put him down hard. Now, people are complaining about a long count, but people need to understand it's the referee's count. That once the guy hits the mat, that doesn't, necessarily start the count. Sometimes it's a second later. Depending on where the outside of the ring picks up the count, that's when, when it's ruled a knockdown, that's when the count starts. So, and it was close again, but it was not over a 10 count. Deontay Wilder detractors are going to do this, and Andre Ward said something and blah, blah, blah. Okay, it was close. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't think we have a rigged system here. He knocked him down later in the round. The second one, a punch was landed, and Fury was still hurt from the first one, but I don't really think it was a clean knockdown, but nonetheless, it was ruled that way. Fury got up and finished the round, but it looked like he could go at that point. But in the fifth round, he picked up, seemed to get back, his feet back, get more back into it. It was a closer round in the fifth, but I had Fury winning every round. But every time it looked like Fury had Deontay, who was tired, out on his feet, Deontay would land a good solid shot and keep himself in it. And he kept doing that up until about through the ninth round. He was still in the fight, and it looked like, hey, he could land a big shot at any moment. Fury had a solid lead heading into the 10th, but he needed, to even it up on knockdowns, so there was no controversy, and he did that in the 10th round. Deontay looked tired, and Fury put him down again, but Deontay, even though he looked like he was going to be out on his feet and knocked out, he got his ass up, and that was impressive. And he got up and kept fighting, but you could tell the 10th round just seemed to zap all the energy out of Deontay. He didn't have that zip on his punches, and it didn't look like that big one punch was going to happen anymore, and it was as much of a threat. And in the 11th, Fury just went after Deontay and got him up in the corner. He hurt him against the ropes and then kept landing punches, got him up into the corner, and landed a wicked right hook, chopping right hook that put Deontay down for the count. The ref waved it off almost immediately once Deontay hit the mat, and Fury seals the deal and retains the WBC heavyweight title with an 11th round knockout win over Deontay Wilder. Very emotional back and forth fight. These two guys traded. There's 5 knockdowns in this fight, and it was big. And impressively, if you look at the numbers, between the two, they knocked each other down in the 3 fights. Fury won that 5-4. 9 knockdowns in 3 fights between these two guys. But Fury leaves no doubt. But, you gotta hand it to Deontay Wilder. This guy did come out with a different plan, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't just all of a sudden teach this guy how to box. He's gonna fight the way he fights. And his style can pretty much beat anybody. But here's the thing, Deontay is a 6'6", 6'7" guy, and most of the time towers over his opponents. That's why he's so effective in his fights. Tyson Fury's bigger, and he can punch with power, and he can box. He's a very complete package as Tyson Fury, and he's a big guy. He can lean on you. He can rough you up too. So, and he can take shots. Yes, he is possible to get hurt, but he can also take shots, and that's what makes Tyson Fury the #1 heavyweight in the division, without a doubt. I mean, the guy's got everything combined, and it was just a huge win for him, a legacy win. And for Deontay, we'll discuss this when I get into the aftermath. He's got nothing to hang his head about, but he didn't want to shake hands after the fight. Went to the back. He just said Tyson Fury was the greater man, But again, great fight. If you're going to go out by a knockout, it's better to go out the way he did, where everybody is wondering if he can still pull it off, as opposed to him getting his ass whipped the way he did in their second fight. So congrats to both guys at the end of the day. This was one of the best heavyweight fights I've ever seen, period, let alone third fight. It totally capped off their trilogy. But Tyson Fury leaves no doubt. He sealed it with a kiss. This rivalry is done. He does not need to prove himself against Deontay Wilder ever again. He's done it. He's beaten him pretty much 3 times, and he's beaten him in every facet of the definition. He outboxed him the first time, should have got the decision, got a draw, completely dominated him in the rematch, and then faced adversity in the 3rd fight, but dug deep and knocked him out again, and knocked him out cold this time. No excuses where it was like, oh, my corner threw in the towel. No. Deontay went out on his shield. Tyson Fury laid him out. Impressive performance on both sides. Got to give him props. Congratulations to Tyson Fury, and that is the recap of the Fury versus Wilder 3 all heavyweight pay-per-view card that took place on ESPN pay-per-view on Saturday, October 9th. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing.